This is the last part for July 22nd, 2010. And if you're new to my videos, go to www.demoraministry.com. After you see the video, scroll down, you'll see the complete news. You can click to the link and read the news for yourself. And what I'm going to be telling you now is something that I told you a while back, and I've been saying this over and over again, and it has to do with the prophecy of Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39, where we see in the last days there's going to be a war against Israel. There's actually going to be two more wars against Israel before the tribulation. One of them is the Psalm 83 war, where the bordering nations surrounding Israel will attack Israel. We know that that'll happen while they're talking peace and safety, as Paul the Apostle warned us in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 3. The other war will actually take place during a time that Israel feels like they're secure and living in a time of peace, and that war will be the fulfillment of the Ezekiel 38 war. And in that war, we're told that the Russians are going to lead an attack against Israel in the last days. And we know that one of the major allies is going to be Iran. It mentions Iran, it specifically states Iran, and it specifically states the other nations like Turkey, Libya, and whatnot. But during the course of these years, I've been telling you, and I've been warning people from my seminars, in my book, and in my post, that Israel is ready, in place, to go out and to stop the Iranians from fulfilling the nuclear weapons quest. In other words, Israel has warned, just like they warned Iraq in previous years, and they warned Syria as well, that they are not going to allow them to have nuclear power to develop a nuclear bomb to destroy their nation of Israel. And so Israel, just like they warned the Syrians and the Iraqis, they did wipe out their facilities to stop them from getting a hold of a bomb that was going to be used against Israel. And Israel has warned again the Iranians, specifically President Mohammed Ahmadinejad, that they're not going to allow them to get a hold of these nuclear weapons, because Ahmadinejad has said over and over again that he wanted to use this kind of weaponry, of mass destruction weaponry, to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. And he's just repeating exactly what God told us, what the verbiage of what was going to be used against Israel in the last days. You can read that also in Psalm 83. Because those nations that bordering Israel say the same thing, that they're going out to wipe out Israel. Now, when Israel goes in to wipe out the nuclear weapons facilities, we believe that that will be the hook in the jaw, it says in the scriptures, that lead Russia into this battle. Now, over the course of these couple of years, if you've been following the news, Israel keeps warning that we're going to take them out, but they're being given time for sanctions to work. The United States, the UN, and everybody else, the European Union, have put these sanctions in place. Now, I've said over and over again, these sanctions will not work. Iran has an agenda. Their agenda is to cause chaos, because Ahmadinejad believes that he's been chosen by Allah to bring out the hidden Ayman, who is their savior. And he was going to go in and destroy Israel when this chaos comes. So he's inviting Israel, actually, to attack Iran. Now, when that happens, there's going to be a counterattack, and we know that that probably will set off the Psalm 83 war first, and then the final attack, which will be the Ezekiel attack. Now, I've been warning people that the sanctions are not going to work. Now, we've been hearing Russia stating in the past that they're going to go along with the sanctions, and I've been telling you all along, don't believe it, because they're lies. The Iranians are hooked to the hip with Russia. I've been saying this over and over again. Russia has been supplying billions of dollars to actually build the plant for the Iranians. Russia has their scientists building the plant for the Iranians. They have finances in there, they have their people in there, and they're hooked to the side. of Iran. And there's no way, I kept saying that there's no way they're going to allow anyone to stop Iran from building their nuclear power plants. Now, when you look at the news today, you'll find out that I was right. And the reason why I was right in saying that Russia will never go along with these sanctions to stop Israel was because I know what the prophecy in Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39 says. And when it says that Russia is going to join and Iran is going to be their major ally, you know for a fact at that point, if you believe in the word, that Russia is not going to go against Israel in the last days. Now, when you scroll down and you actually see the news report, you will see, I'll give you one of the areas or one of the posts that I wrote with the warning that I gave to you that don't believe what was going to happen, that Russia was going to go along with the United States and these sanctions. And that was just one of my warnings. But when you go down below that, you'll see it says, however, the Decca file, or the Decca News Weekly from Moscow, pointed out none of them read the Medvedev is the president of Russia, his comments right through to the end, which it is where he buried the sting of new Russian posture. Far from seconding American policy on Iran, Moscow has crossed over to the other side and now endorses Iran's right not only to enrich uranium, but to actually acquire nuclear weapons. So there you have it. Russia finally came out and they're telling everybody that they believe that Iran should have nuclear weapons. Now, obviously, this is the posture that I've been saying all along that they're going to take, because Russia is with Iran as far as a military ally. And so we know what's going to happen. Now, further down in the article, it says, if this is where Moscow, and not just the tough-minded Putin stands, with China expected to follow, there will not be much left to discuss in September other than to seize Iran's nuclear arsenal. Hardly a cause for celebration in Washington, London, Paris, or Jerusalem. In other words, in September, there was previous warnings said that Israel would go out and launch an attack against Iran in September. And this is where it gets really interesting, because it's around September where we have the feast coming up again for the Jewish feast, and we know that many of the prophecies for the Lord's second coming were fulfilled during the feast, and we know that this is going to happen again to fulfill the last three feasts that haven't been fulfilled yet in prophecy. It says, senior Russian sources familiar with the new position President Medvedev touched on and revealed to Decafile Net Weekly that it stemmed most immediately from the outcome of Obama's talks with Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House on July 6th. They referred in particular to the U.S. President's consent to grant Israel and its nuclear program the special status that the U.S. has awarded the nations of the Nuclear Suppliers Group, NSG. So we have statements made by Barack Obama that Putin doesn't like, Medvedev, who's running the country, doesn't like, and so they stepped over, now they aligned themselves with Russia. Or Iran. And this is not by chance. We know that this attack is going to happen. We know that when it does, we'll see the wars. And I believe that this is one of the wars that Jesus warned about. You will see the war and you will hear rumors of war. And we know that this is one of the two wars that are definitely coming up soon. And if it happens during the feast, then we know that the church is going to be taken out even maybe sooner. So pay attention to what's going on. God bless.